Hi everybody and welcome to my studio. My name is Lonna. I am an acrylic artist. Thank you so much for stopping by to paint with me today. We are going to be painting another Christmas project today. It's going to be a little gnome, Santa, well, a Christmas gnome, I guess is what it is. And he's a mixed media project. I've had fun doing these mixed media projects lately. So we're going to do another one. Let's take a look at him. Look at him. He is so cute. Now he's on my scallop rectangle surface available on my website. You can certainly paint him on any surface that you have that you like. This surface is close to 17 inches. I'm not sure if it's a little bit longer than 17 inches, but it's somewhere around in there. And so this gnome fits it perfectly. Like I said, it's mixed media because look, we've got him holding this little cluster of pine cones. He's got some raised snowflakes here, a little fun foam sparkly ball, and even on the cuffs of his arms. And we've stenciled in his beard and put some bling bling on the hat, stenciled up here. He is just a cute project. He's going to be a really fast one to paint, I think. We even do the wood look in the background. Super easy and super fast to do, and you can really change that wood look up for whatever way that you like your wood to look. It's going to be a really fun project. Most of these elements that are on here, well actually all of these elements that are on here I got at Hobby Lobby. So you can also, I know I also bought some of this pine off of Amazon, a little box of it, and it would do quite a few if you went that route. I just searched for decorative pine, Christmas pine, small, and came up with that. But you don't have to have him holding anything dimensional. You can paint something that he is between his hands. He is just the cutest little gnome, and everybody is into gnomes still this year. So we're going to paint him up. We're going to be using Deco Art Americana acrylic paints. So if you're ready, let's grab our paints and supplies and let's paint this adorable Christmas gnome. All right, everybody, if you are ready to start this adorable Christmas gnome, I'm going to show you a few of the things I'll be using on this mixed media project. It's considered a mixed media because we have elements that are not painted on this project, and you can certainly change it up and make it fun for any holiday or season. And I think that you will really enjoy painting this. It's going to be an easy one, I think, a fun one, but the options to be creative and do something different with this is so fun. Now I've added some elements on here like this fluffy little ball that's got glitter in it, and I've got some smaller ones on the cuffs of the mittens. He's got some fun shoes, some little snowflakes on his hat, and then this little bundle of pine cones and berries because he's my little Christmas gnome. We've stenciled on the beard, on the hat, the arms, and the shoes. And I think he's going to be a lot of fun. I want to show you another way that I kind of changed it up a little bit and made an Easter one. Gave him a purple hat, some bunny slippers holding a bunny, a little pink pom-pom on his hat there. These were just some bunnies, a package of bunnies that I bought at the dollar store this year. I think I got these at the dollar store. I may have gotten them at Hobby Lobby, but I'm thinking I got them at the dollar store. And I just cut the arms and the body off and glued two pink ones here for the slippers. And how fun is that? Did his beard a little bit different. Just pretty solid beard in there, not as wispy and soft as I did it here. And you can change his beard up in so many ways. Lots of fun. So that's just one idea. You can do St. Patrick's Day. You can do Valentine's Day. I mean, it's endless. You can do spring. You can do fall. You know, Halloween. Oh my gosh, to do Halloween with this would be so fun. I'm gonna have to do a Halloween one now. All right, so I just want to tell you, these are adhesive here, and that one's not sticking good. These are hot glued on. These elements here are hot glued on. So if you're going to do something like this, you'll need a hot glue gun. But you could also use some E6000 or some kind of adhesive other than hot glue to adhere them. You could also, in place of using hot glue, you could use some Velcro. This is just a strip of Velcro, so I could cut off any size that I need, and these things don't weigh anything on here. So you could use this or some that are circles that are already made like this. This is just what I had left in my package when I bought them, so I put them in a smaller bag, but they're just little individual Velcros. These are circles, and so they're adhesive, so you could stick one on here and one on the element that you're going to put on here, and then you could just change the element out through the season instead of painting another one with different colors. So these are the snowflakes that I got these at Hobby Lobby. Oops. And there's also this type available there. They're also adhesive, but they're a little bit different, so it depends on the look you're going for. And then the two stencils that we'll be using are both from my website, lonnalamb.com, my swirl stencil and my buffalo check. You can get buffalo check stencils just about anywhere. And Folk Art also has a swirl stencil. Actually, Folk Art stencil is the one I used on this one before I created my own stencil. So there is that. And then the balls I also got on here, the little pom-poms, from Hobby Lobby, and they have them in red and green as well. So you could mix it up and make it red and green and have fun with it that way. These also can be purchased at Hobby Lobby, and I just took a little bundle of it and glued them right there. So there's plenty, there's probably enough there to do 3, maybe 4 of these little gnomes. So let me move all this stuff out of the way. We're going to start working on this little gnome guy here. Oops. The first thing that I did was I applied a coat of multi-purpose sealer. Now you can apply it with a damp 2-inch foam roller or a damp artist sponge, whatever works best for you. I believe I applied mine with a 2-inch foam roller, and then I used the same foam roller to apply 2 to 3 coats of white. This is Snow White here. If you apply 2 coats and you feel like the coverage is good, you don't need to apply the 3rd coat. We're going to be putting paint on top of this. You're not going to see a lot of the white in the background, so if you don't want to go do a 3rd coat, then don't worry about doing a 3rd coat. We have only 3 colors of paint we're using in this one: Snow White, Santa Red, and Lamp Black. And then of course we have to bling it up with some glamour dust ice crystal, because it's a Christmas project. We cannot paint one without having some bling on it. So those are the paints I'll be using. And you can get the packet for this design on my website, lonnalamb.com. It has written step-by-step instructions, step-by-step color photos, and the line drawing. So you'll have that. You'll need a couple of stencil brushes. Probably really just one, because let's see, we're stenciling. No, we'll need 2, because we'll need one for black and one for white paint. Okay, you're going to need a stiff bristled, this is not incredibly stiff, but it's stiff, a brush that we can use on the background to get our technique on the background. So this is just a filbert type stiff brush. This is the Dynasty Mezzaluna. This is the large size. You can get both of these brushes on my website, We'll be using a 1/2 inch rake brush for the beard. You can get this on my website as well. A mop brush, I always have one just in case we need it. We're going to need a 10, a 1/2 inch, and an 8 flat. I've got a couple of 8s here. Oh, this one is a chisel blender. This is a short one. We're going to need a 3/8 inch angle. This one actually was not on my list. I just grabbed it out of there. 3/8 inch angle, and you're going to need a detail liner. So I've got a 10-0 liner, and then a 2 round brush. And I just grabbed 2 of both of those, but you only need 1 of each. So these are the brushes right here that are listed in the packet that you will need that I use to paint my original one. Now, may come down when I paint this one that I don't use any of those, I don't use all of these brushes. I may just use some of them, but you'll want to have them on hand. You'll want your palette, your water basin, and some paper towels. So we are going to get started on this design. And then, your stencils, you'll have to have those. So the first thing we're going to do is work on our background. So let's put out some black and some white onto our palette, and we are going to work on the background. And we're going to use this Mezzaluna stiff brush. Now, if you've got one that's a bigger size, you could use a bigger size on the background, but the background there's not a lot of it that you see on here, so you don't need to go to a great big brush for this. I did put on my line drawing, just the basic lines. Of course, there's with this guy, there's not a whole lot to him, so I pretty much put on every line because there's not much to him at all. So for the line drawing, it's a pretty easy one, and we may have to come back in and apply the outside lines if, as we get our background on, we can't see it, but we'll figure that out as we go. So just make sure that if you're using this same surface, which this surface is on my website, this is my scalloped rectangle plaque. If you get this surface and you put your gnome on here, make sure he's centered on here pretty good so he's not leaning one way or the other or too close to one edge or the other. I made him where he fits pretty precise on this surface right here, so you shouldn't have too much trouble getting him on. So if you're ready, let's get painting our background. Okay, so I've got my stiff little brush here. It's dry. I am not going to use this wet. It won't hurt to use it wet, but I feel like you get a better effect if you use it dry. So if you feel like your brush gets filled up, then just go remove the excess paint out of it onto a paper towel and then just reload it. So I'm going to load with some white paint here and then get a little bit of black. I want to make actually I want a lot more white. I want a gray color here, but I want this to be irregular. And then I'm just going to start brushing this on here. It's okay if we get into our hat. We haven't painted our hat yet. So I want it to be not all one color. So I'm going to grab a little bit of black and pull some black in through here and kind of vary the colors, and we're going to work our way all the way down. Actually, it's really good if you go into your elements a little bit, because see, like right here, I haven't even remotely gotten close to my hat here. So I'm going to wipe that off, get a little bit of black. Let's get a little bit closer here. Now, if you feel like you get too much color in your background, it's so easy to fix. It's just a white background, so we can come back in with some white. It might take you a couple of tries to get that white lightened up a little bit, but it can be done, so don't worry. If you feel like you're losing some of your white, then we will definitely come back and put it in. So we're going to work can't talk. We're going to work our way all the way down our piece, going into and on top of our elements just a little bit. So you might have a tendency to overdo this. Let's not overdo. I got a little heavy-handed there, but I think it'll work out here. I'll definitely have to add some white on top of that. I'm going to make sure I go into my beard area. And let's go over here. Tap off on my paper towel because I felt like I had a lot of paint in my brush. I'm really just tickling the tips of the brush along here, not letting it lay down very much paint because I don't want to completely cover up my white. Now I'm going to pick up some black and go in here with some black, make some stronger areas. You can lay your brush flat and pull it this way, or you can turn it up on its edge and pull it this direction. For the most part, I'm keeping mine flat. Now I really like this area right here. I like that it is got some darker gray in it right there. I think that is really fun. I'm going to put a little bit more white in my mix here and do a little bit more of that gray here and there. I know I'm going to need some white back in, especially on this side over here. So I'm going to take my brush and I'm just going to squeeze out all that excess paint that's in there and try to get as much of it out as possible because I'd like to use some white. Now if you have a second brush, you can grab that, but I'm going to continue to use this brush. I do have a second brush because I want to show you that if you just remove that paint out of your brush and then just go into some white, tap a little there, we can come back in and streak some white in here. This may end up being a back and forth thing for you. If you're like, oh, I put too much white and covered up too much of my dark, that's okay. The background is a pretty easy one. So if you feel like you need to come back in and add some of your other colors, you could also grab a small round brush or a flat brush and put some of this paint back in. You don't have to try and do it with your little scruffy brush if you're having any kind of difficulty with just letting it lay down a little bit of paint, because just a little bit's all we need. Okay, now I'm going to clean my brush out because I don't know if I'm going to need it again in a minute, but I want to remove as much paint as possible so no paint dries in this while I am doing a couple of my other techniques on here. But I may need to come back to this brush. You can also take some rubbing alcohol or some hand sanitizer and clean it out and then dry it real well. The alcohol will evap very quickly. But these brushes clean so well. I just removed pretty much all the paint. I'm sure there's still a small amount in there. So I'm not going to worry about it drying in there because we are going to be able to clean it just fine. Okay, so at this point, I want to create some lines in my background. So I've got one here and here, and you don't really see them down here when they connect. There's one here, and it's going to come all the way down and be right there. So I'm just going to put a few lines at the top and then see if they're going to connect anywhere down here, and go ahead and paint them in, because you don't know if all of the stuff that you're putting on top is going to cover where you put that line or not. So in case it does not, you're going to need that line in there to finish that flow for you. So I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. So let's grab our 2 round brush. I'm going to get it damp. Move this brush out of the way. Staying with our black paint here, I'm going to load my brush up, and then I'm going to determine where it is that I want my line to be. So I think I'm going to want a line here. I'm not going to make it perfect. Give it a little wiggle and a jiggle and make it a little bit irregular. Let's put one here. You can make your boards as wide as you want. And then I'll have one right about here, I think. And I'm just going to bring this one on down. I went right through my hat there, so I do want to remove that. I don't want it to be super dark right there where I'm going to be painting my red. So I'm just going to remove with a damp brush right there the majority of that paint. Okay, so this one I would bring it straight down this way, and right here it would finish coming. Actually, that's not very straight. It should actually finish coming right there. Alright, damp brush, just take that paint away. And because this side of the surface should be exactly the same as that side. So if I've got it going right here next to where it curves up right there, that's where it's pretty much going to be down here. So, and that looks crooked. I'm going to flip it upside down. Flip it upside down. Try and talk with a paintbrush in my mouth. Alright, let's... Okay, I'm pretty sure our beard is going to cover that, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. Let's get a little bit more black. So this one is going to be about here. We're not going to see probably that at all by the time we do what we're going to do to the edge of the board. And then this one, it's in the curve a little bit, probably about a thumb width, so right about here. And we'll just pull that, and you can make it wiggly and do whatever you want to do that is creative for you. And I'm just going to bring it on up to where the beard is. I know my beard is going to cover that up, but just in case, you just never know how that's going to work out. Alright, so I want to take some water. I'm going to dip my paintbrush in water and bring it over to my black paint and thin a little bit of it down. Now, this next technique that we're going to do, you can use a round brush, you can use a flat brush, whatever will work best for you. I'm going to spritz the right edge of my palette paper with water. That's clean water, although the water in my basin is still currently clean. We don't necessarily need clean water when we're thinning black, because you can't really tint it with another color too bad. But we want to keep this inky consistency. Now we're going to go around the edge of our piece, and I'm going to push and wiggle and give it some irregular stuff going all the way around it. And again, you can use a flat brush or a round brush to do this. And some places you might go in a little bit more than others. And we're going to go all the way around. And if you feel like you get this too big, then you can certainly come back with your gray and take it down. But we don't want this to be a straight line through here. We want it to be irregular. And I can even miss some places along here. And some places can be thinner. Just, you know, have fun with it. Be loose with it. It's just a little kind of dragging of the brush. Now, your paint's not going to come off your brush very well unless you have it a thinner paint. Not watery, but thin enough so that it will flow off of your brush easily. And go all the way around. So, see, we're making that rough edge like it's a old board that's been worn. I've used this technique for doing old boards for many years, and I know there are some other designers out there who do it very similar. So it's a super easy technique. And see, down there I could have, you know, broke that up a little bit. So let's go along here. Do it a little bit thinner on this corner. A little water in my paint. And maybe some bigger chunks and some smaller chunks. I call them chunks, but it's really aged and weathered edge here. Get some more water. And we're back up here to where we started. Okay, now with this same little round brush, we can go in here and create some little cracks in our wood and give it some, you know, little stuff, little character going on. And again, some of this could be covered up. We can pull some places at the edge of our wood where, you know, maybe it's got some little cracks going on at the edge, so you can just pull some little stuff. But on these, when you're doing them, don't make them very big because we don't want to get them confused with our board lines. Okay, so just do a few of them. I think we'll do some in white because we need to highlight our board line too. So I'm going to wash my brush out and we're going to get some white on our brush and do some white right beside our main board lines. We'll do it on the right side. I might come back and do it on both sides, but for now we're just going to do it on the right side. This is just a little highlight. And the white will fade in there. You'll probably have to do this a couple of times. That's just the way white is. It just fades in. So then we can take our white and come in and create some brighter little areas in our wood, our background. Again, especially down in here, a lot of this will be covered up with our beard, so I don't want you to get caught up in, you know, details. Okay. Now at this point you can go back in and take a look at your background and try and see if you want it to be lighter. Now even though these are the exact same boards, this one looks so much different because this one has more of the white and the gray in it. So I'm going to go back to my Mezzaluna brush and load it up with some white, teeny tiny bit of black. Keep this a lighter gray. And I'm going to come in here in between all my stuff that I did and put some of this lighter stuff in here and lighten up my background just a little bit. Don't worry about going into your hat or any other part of your painting. We do want to keep that black edge out there. So if you get some in it, too much, it's okay if you get a little bit, but if you get some in it, you might want to go back and redo that edge. So I've got mostly white in my brush with a little tiny bit of black. And I'm just going to lighten this up a little bit. And get it a little bit closer to that one. And I think that one brought it up pretty close to this one. I might take a little bit of this up here. A little bit more white, I think. I added more black to that, but I think it needs to be the white. So just do this along here. Wherever you feel like it needs it. You can come back with your black and add the black in. You know, if you feel like you've taken it too far down, you know, it could become a vicious little cycle. At some point, you're going to have to look at it and say, I'm good with it. Because at some point, you're going to have to realize that you're going to see such a small amount of that border out there that continually working it is not going to be good. So I'm going to wash my brush out. I'm telling myself I'm going to be done with this brush. I may be telling myself wrong. I am going to do a little bit more to the background, but I think I'm going to be done with that brush. I want to do my border over here a little bit more. I want a few bigger places in there. And I'm going to touch up here because I did get some color in my border up here where I'm making my board look old. I think the rest of it looks pretty good. I think I'll take my black and streak a little bit. I want to make sure that my board separations are still good, that I didn't cover them up, you know, when I didn't want to. If you're doing this streaking stuff through here with your black, make sure that you are keeping your lines straight in a downward motion. Okay, I did that with the black. Now I want to come back with some white and then redo the white along the beside my board separations because it faded in there. I knew it would, because that's what white does. And come in here with a few streaks of white. This will help break everything up a little bit. Okay, I think I'm going to leave my background right there. And then I'll come back and maybe work some more white, you know, along those lines if I need to. But for now, I'm just going to say it's good. It's good because you can keep messing with it and tweaking it and working it as much as you want. But yeah, at some point you just got to say, looks like a weathered board. I'm ready to move on. So I'm ready to move on. Let's go to the next step. All right, I'm going to quickly paint in my arms because I drew this on here without using my line drawing and I didn't get the arms right, so I had to erase and repaint the arms, and so I've got all these pencil lines in here that I don't want to have, and so I'm going to paint them in. Now, you don't have to do this part. If it's helpful for you to have it, then you can certainly do it. Paint in the arms, and that way you can see where you're going when you start putting the stencil on here. But we're just seeing a small section of his arms, but I really got carried away with my oops, let's not go out that far because I don't know how far the beard's going to come out, so let's try and stay where we're supposed to be. Okay, I'm not really sure. I was working on a different program to record. That's not the first time that has happened, so I'm going to have to stop using that program to record. So I'm recording in a whole different area. So it froze up for me when I was painting this white in the arms. So I started to talk about doing the hat, but it was frozen. Just nothing. So I was talking, but nothing was moving here. So we're going to paint in the hat with the Santa red. Normally I undercoat my red with gray, but I cannot remember if I did that on this piece or not, because it makes it much easier when you undercoat with gray. You don't have to use as much red to get your red as bright as you need it. So I actually think I'm going to go ahead and undercoat with some gray. So I'm just going to mix a little bit of white and black, and we'll put a quick light coat of gray underneath this. I'm using my largest brush that is in the list now. I believe this is a 1/2 inch flat, yes. So you still want this to be a nice smooth coat of paint. If you can't see your lines for your hat, this is the time when you want to put your pattern back on so that you can see your lines. Goodness, it is so hot in here today. We are having the hottest temperatures that we've had here all summer. Oh my gosh. And so it is very, very hot. My studio is above our garage, so you know, I get all the heat that is down there that comes up through my floor. So it's very, very warm here today. Alright, so my hat comes all the way up here. And while we have this gray, we'll go ahead and paint in our fur area on our hat. I'll be getting my easel out here in a minute after I get my base coats on, because I just have too much moving of the board here. Alright, so there's my undercoat of gray. I'm gonna wash my brush out because I feel like it is loaded down with paint, and get a little bit more of that gray mix. We're gonna make this a medium gray here, and we'll paint in. I'm not going to worry about this hair area. I'm just going to take it straight across on both sides of the nose. Okay? Those lines are just there for your benefit, so let's make a nice. It's going to be a lot of black. Get some water. Now, I could just go over the nose and then just draw the nose back in, but I don't want to be trying to paint a light color over this dark, so I'm going to go around the nose. So we want a nice shade of gray here, a medium to dark gray, okay? But not incredibly dark, because you know you won't be able to get your shading color and stuff to pop if you paint it too dark. So there's not much change here. I've got a light gray and a medium gray. Okay, I'm going to paint in the gloves as well. Let me put some more white out. The gloves and the shoes are also red. So want that lighter gray on here. The mittens, I guess, is what these are. Definitely going to have to get a smaller brush here, I think. Maybe not. Learn how to do things with a larger brush. You really learn how to manipulate and control your brush. So we want the hands to be just have a slight gap in between them. So if you've put your pattern on and they don't seem like they're right, then just adjust as you paint it or redo the hands. Alright, go down here to the shoes, and these are just kind of two big egg shapes here, which we're not going to see a whole lot of. Just a couple of egg shapes, that's all we're doing here. So you don't necessarily have to have a drawing for this. Our beard is going to come over these shoes. We're just going to see the outer edges of the shoes there. So this is how you're going to start your painting. I'm going to put another quick coat on my arms here of white. Try and cover up a little bit more of that pencil line. I don't want to see it when I start stenciling. I don't want to see those pencil lines in there. Oops, that's gray. We don't want gray, we want white. Okay, that looks much better. No ridges, lumps, or bumps here. Alright, so we've got a first coat on here. Now with your shoes and your mittens, a second coat is optional. If it's very choppy, you'll want to go ahead and apply that second coat, and they should actually be as light as what the hat is, so I probably will go back on my second coat and lighten those up. So with my hat, I don't need a second coat. I just needed something to put under the red, but I am going to put a second coat on the hat rim and a second coat lightening it up on the mittens and the shoes. So I'm going to get the second coats on. Instead of showing you repetitive stuff, I'll go off camera and do that and come back and we'll move on to the next step. All right, let's get some red on here. I've got my gray on here. My red's just about dried up on my palette. Got distracted doing something else. So let's paint our red on our hat. Now this is going to take 2 coats on here. So take your time, make nice smooth coats. My paint's got little goober stuff in it now since it started drying. Let's go along our hat brim nicely, all the way out to the edge of your hat. I'm using my 1/2 inch flat. A little bit of water in my paint to keep it a nice flowy consistency so it doesn't dry too quickly on me, and I can move it along as I need to. Edge of my hat here. I probably could have painted this in just a slightly darker gray, but this should work. Reds tend to be a little bit transparent, so it does take a little bit more paint if you do not coat them with something. And I always use a light to medium gray color. And I've said this in many of my videos because there are other designers out there that use a green or an orange, and you can certainly use those colors. Those colors are perfectly fine to use underneath your red, but I used to do wall murals, and I found that if I wanted whatever I was painting on the wall to have the color of red that was in my can or my tube, and I wanted it to be that exact color, I had to undercoat it with gray. because the other colors changed the red just slightly, just enough that it was noticeable to me. Probably it wasn't noticeable to anybody else, but it was to me. So I always undercoat with a light to medium gray. If you have gray sky in deco art, that is my go-to paint for undercoating all of my red. But it's very easy to mix with white and black, so if you don't have it, you can just mix yourself some. So it's just a light gray mix. So let's paint in our mittens with 2 coats. Kind of lost this thumb here. I'm not sure what's going on there. That's not looking so spiffy there. I have to draw that thumb back in there and see if I can make it look a little better. Although once we get stuff in the hands, you're not going to see the thumbs. Plus the beard kind of comes over the hands a little bit. And when you're painting in your mittens, if when you put the line drawing on, they don't come back up on the arm enough, just take your paint up that way, because we want our pom-poms to go here, not on top of the thumbs. So if you need to bring that back a little bit so that you can glue those pom-poms on there without completely covering up the thumbs, that's what I want you to do. Take those mittens back up the arms a little ways. And let's paint in our egg-shaped shoes. Okay, I think I made those eggs rather large because I don't think on my original one, well, they are kind of big. I think I have my eggs tilted up more, but I did just make egg shapes, so just do it that way. I'm going to go ahead and paint in my nose while my hat and stuff are drying. Now, my nose is just going to be a pink nose, nothing fancy about it. So I'm going to take my red and some white, a little more white, a lot more white. I want it to be a light pink nose. I'm going to add a little bit, tiny little bit of black in here. Tone that pink down just a little bit. And I still want it to be lighter, so I'm going to wipe my brush out and grab a whole bunch of white, because I want this to just be a light pink. I want a color that we can shade and highlight on, so not too dark here. And this is just an oval, so like a fat oval for the nose. And we'll probably have to touch up a little bit when we do our beard. Our nose will probably be one of the last things that we paint in case we need to do any correcting from the elements that are around. So just a, you know, light to medium pink. Not so light that when you put a highlight of white on there you can't see it, but not so dark that, you know, when you put your shading color on there, you can't see that either. Okay, while I got this smaller tin flat, I'm going to go ahead and put my second coat on my mittens and my shoes. And then I'll just go off camera and put the second coat on my hat, so I'm not using so much camera time to do that kind of stuff. So just take your time, and you do not have to paint as fast as I paint. I am definitely a fast painter, so don't feel like you have to paint as fast as me. I want you to take your time and enjoy the process and not be stressed out, because painting is a very relaxing thing to do. lumps or bumps or thick paint. All right, I'm gonna go off camera and get my second coat on my hat and my nose, and I shall be right back. Okay, all of our base coats are on. So now we're gonna get ready to add some of the fun stuff. We actually are going to base coat on our beard in a little bit, but we need to get the arms and the mittens done before we do that, and the shoes. So let's start with our hat. And so we're going to need our stencil, our buffalo check stencil, and we're gonna lay it on here. Now I'm going to lay it where it is past the edge of the hat here. If I get a little black in the background, as long as it doesn't look like a buffalo check area, no problem. If you do get some in there and it looks not like you want, you can take a white eraser and erase it off before it cures, or you could take some Scotch tape and you could tape along your hat right here to keep it from going out. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to tape it because I'm going to use such a light pressure when I get to that edge. I'm not going to worry too much about it. So let's grab one of our stencil brushes, and I've got a 1/2 inch Stencil Pro by Dynasty here. These are my absolute favorite stencil brushes. I do sell them on my website, and trust me, I have tried out many stencil brushes, but the first time I used this one, I knew it was going to be my favorite. It just works so well. It releases the paint nicely. It doesn't get all splayed out after you use it. I love it, love it, love it. So you can use whatever stencil brush that you have. You can use a makeup sponge to stencil with. Remember, makeup sponges are not absorbent, so you can't put a lot of paint on them. Always use them dry. And disperse the paint evenly along the makeup sponge, and then you can tap that on very light layers when you're using a makeup sponge. Do not get too much paint. So we're going to load our stencil brush. Find a dry spot on my paper towel here and kind of offload a little bit. Just tap lightly. And we're just going to go in here, and I'm going to start tapping first because I want to work up to this edge here, the hat brim. I just got some in there. I'm not going to worry about it. I can come back in with my gray and touch that up. We're going to be shading along this edge, so getting it perfect on there, not a concern for me. But again, I want you to do, what's comfortable for you. So I'm going to go along this edge first. I'm tapping right up to that edge. Now, I don't know if I could do this with any other stencil brush because these are so, compacted so nicely in here. They stay nice together. They don't splay out, and I don't have any wild ones going out the side. All right, I'm going to go right up to there. And now I can come in. Let me hold my stencil. I probably should tape this down. I can go, let me go along this edge down here. So let me get some more paint, work it into my brush, tap, tap, tap. And tap along that gray. The gray will be easy to touch up, so I'm not worried about it. Plus, we're going to do some stippling on there, so it will come across just fine. Go up this side, and then we can just do the swirling motion in the center, and then move our stencil to finish up the hat. Okay, here we go. Let's swirl, swirl, swirl. And definitely, definitely, definitely tape down your stencil. That way you can lift it up and see what areas you didn't get enough paint in. And it doesn't have to be full coverage on here, you guys. Actually, the more irregular it is, the cooler it looks, I think. But don't overload your brush, because if you overload it, you're going to have paint oozing underneath there, and you won't be happy at all. Okay, I'm gonna move it up now. I've got a nice checks there. So I'm gonna line up with the ones that I painted in here. Make sure my stencil is nice and straight, and we can finish out the rest of this hat. Now I'm gonna tap because I'm at this edge. And make sure you get all of your stencil, because see right here and right here, there's just a little bit of stencil that was on that hat band. So that's on the hat, and I want to make sure that I get that stencil. Alright, tap along the hat here, a little bit here. I'm just going to paint that in, I think, because that is too small of an area. I could grab a smaller stencil brush and do that, but I think I'll just paint it in. I think that's going to be pretty good. Yep, that looks great. Alright, let me quickly paint that tip in of the hat, because this area here would have been a black square. That's going to be covered up by our little pom-pom, but let's make things nice and neat while we're doing them. Okay, so the hat looks great. Let's go down here and do our mittens. I'm going to do the same thing on the mittens. You know, kind of try to stay out of my background a little bit. Now this is where you could go to a much smaller stencil brush. So I'm just going to tap, 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 tap on these mittens. Again, we're not going to see all of these mittens. Try and stay out of my white background, but again, if you feel more comfortable taping around the mitten or using a smaller stencil brush, however it feels best for you. I'm just going to go right over to this other mitten since I've got the stencil on top of it here and stencil it. Oop, I think I got my white there, but that's okay. We got to add some gray into the beard, so it's not an over concern for me. So I don't want it to be an overly concerning thing for you. Yeah, because I kind of, you know, messed that up a lot. So here it is. This is where your personality comes into this. So if this really bothers you, I've got my white eraser. I dipped it into water, and this paint has not cured, so I can erase it. But I'm telling you, you don't have to worry about it because we got our beard to put in here, and we're going to be putting some gray in here first. So, and then I'm just going to wipe that away. I'll erase it for your benefit, but I probably would have just left it for mine. So, again, we won't be seeing a lot of that. So, I didn't erase it all, but I erased the majority of it. So, one of those tri erasers, which I do sell on my website, handiest tool ever. So, also up here where I got it into my gray, even though it's been a little while since I painted that paint has not cured yet. So just a little water and very light erasing, because if you erase too hard, then you go all the way down to your wood. So it has to be a light erasing, and you're just moving a very, very thin layer of paint, and you can get that off of there. Again, it's not anything we have to worry about, but if that's something that really bothers you, that is a really easy way to get it off, and I do have a video showing how to do this on my website and on my YouTube channel and on Deco Art's YouTube channel. Alright, back to our black paint and our stencil brush, tap, tap, tap. I'm going to do all both shoes at once because I've got my stencil across here. The beard's going to cover a lot up. We don't have to worry about how things look. I'm actually going to move it up so I have more stripes in the shoe areas. And I'm just going to tap because this is a small area. I want to control the paint a little bit more. So I'm just going to tap it in there. Okay, that looks pretty good. Beard's going to cover up some of that. So we've got our stenciling done there. Now we're not done with this stencil yet. We need to stencil in the arms. And the arms are white, but they're stenciled with black. So again, we're going to grab our stencil, lay it across our arm. Now this is where if you can't see your arm line drawing, you want to try and put it in there, because we want to see as much of the arm as possible. Position your stencil however it looks great for you. Again, a lot of this will be covered up. I'm going to tap right up to the line that I put there for my arm, and then it goes up here. Alright, let's take a peek. A little bit more here. I think I'll rub that in right up to that line. And then right up to the line here. Okay, that looks much better. I like that. That's one arm done. Incredibly easy to do. Alright, let's do this one. I think I might have enough black. Maybe not. I'm going to put some more black out because I don't think I got enough to load the brush. I'm going to tap it, swirl it a little bit, tap, tap, tap. And I'm going to go right in here to my, I think I'll do it this way. So I'm going to tap right here next to my mitten. This arm comes up right here. I've got some arm right here. Oop. Alright. See if I can follow my arm shape through this stencil. I think that looks pretty good. So we've got all of our buffalo check stencil on. Super easy. I mean, it seriously is super easy, so don't stress out about it. It's just look at your lines, stencil in between those lines as best you can. Don't worry if it comes past a little bit, because you know this beard's going to cover a lot of stuff up. See, it goes over the arms here, and then these cover up some, and these cover up some. It's got a lot yet to do, so I don't want you to think, oh my gosh, my stencil is too far into my beard. Again, you can erase it, you can paint over it, you can leave it, it doesn't matter. So just don't stress out about it. That's my key tip right there. I really think I need to bring the stencil in the arm up here a little bit. Bring it up a little bit higher. I need it to be the same height as that one. So there you go. That is done. We're done with this stencil, so go ahead and clean it out. A tip about cleaning out your stencil brushes. Now, normally when I'm just painting and not doing a lesson, I immediately go to my sink with my stencil and my stencil brush. I squeeze hand sanitizer onto my stencil. Just a couple of pumps, squirt, squirt, and then I rub it to where it covers the whole stencil. I let it set for 30 seconds. Then I take my stencil brush that I just used and I clean the stencil. It cleans the stencil and the stencil brush at the exact same time. Super easy. You don't need a lot of pressure. Just swirl it around there. That paint comes right off. So that is my stencil cleaning tip for you guys. So I'm going to get ready to, let's see, what are we going to work on next? Oh, we're going to shade on the hat, the mittens, and the shoes. We'll do a little bit of shading on the arm. So we're going to get ready to do all of our shading and highlighting on the elements that we just put the buffalo check on. Right, let's start some shading on our project here. So I'm going to take my angle brush, and I've got a 3/8, but I think I'm going to grab a 1/2 inch angle brush, because this is a much larger area here that we're going to be shading, so I want to make sure that I can kind of carry the paint. Now we're going to be using black to shade on this, and with black it can take over a project so fast, so you have to start out with light layers. And how you start out with light layers is you load your brush with water. Now, for those of you who have never painted with me before, you need to condition your brush before you start painting anything. And I should have told you this at the beginning, but I like to put them in the water and let the bristles fill completely full of water, and you can't just swish it around in there and be ready. You've got to let it fill up with water. Then I lay it on the paper towel and let it wick out the water off of each side. Then it's ready to paint. But with wanting to have a little bit more water in my brush to keep my floats a little softer, keep my water a little bit lighter, I'm going to, instead of, I've got it full of water, so instead of laying both sides on the paper towel, I'm just going to do one side. So I'm going to put the toe of the brush into the paint. It's only on that one corner, and I'm going to work it in my brush. Now I've got that extra water in my brush, and I'm going to work that paint in with the water. I'm going to go over here where I spritzed my palette and grab a drop of water and work that in and make that even a softer color. Now the paint's starting to come over onto my brush a little far, so I just wiped my brush off, and I'm reloading here. Okay, now this will be pretty transparent. We won't see a whole lot of this when we start out, but it gives us a guide. Definitely need less paint there on that one edge. This will give us a guide to where we're going. I'm just going to take my finger and work that out because I think I got paint in my brush a little far, so I'm going to wash out and reload my brush right back here because there's plenty of water right here. And we're going to go down this edge, a little bit more paint. I'm going to go down this edge, right along that edge, all the way down to the bottom. Now you want to make sure that this that you just put in there is dry. This is not near dark enough for me down here along the brim or the fur of the hat trim. So we're going to just continue up to about this point right here. Now I want this to come over farther, so I'm going to load a little bit more in my brush and walk it over because I've got that water in my brush and paint on the toe. I didn't overly blend it into my brush, and then I can just walk it over. Okay, so we've got a nice float along that edge. More water in my brush. I'm going to go along this edge here. And I'll bring that up a little bit because our fur might be casting a little bit of a shadow there. Now this area right here, I'm going to talk to you about it in a minute. I want it to get dry before I show you how to take care of corners like that. So up here we're going to, looks like I did it on this side and came down this edge of the hat right here with a little bit of shadow. I may have brought a little tiny bit up along this edge. A little bit of a shadow here. Not too much. You can always use your finger and pull colors out. The rest of it, well, it's highlighted up there and right here. So I am going to take a very thin float along this edge here. That means I'm keeping it close to that edge, not letting it come out very far at all. Just a little color along that edge, not very much. Now, this corner here should be dry. If it feels cool, it's not dry. So this is a V. Anytime that you have a V, we're going to take the paint and put it in the corner, and then we're going to start rounding out that corner. And that is going to give that corner shape. It's not going to keep it looking like a tight little triangle. I'm going to do the same thing over here. So I'm going to push the paint to the tip of the toe into the corner, and then as I walk out my brush, I'm going to round that out, and it's going to give it some nice shape right there. It's going to make the hat appear more rounded. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to my 3/8 inch. I'm going to make sure I add this brush to my palette list. I'm going to switch over to a 3/8 angle. The one I just used was a 1/2 inch. Again, I'm going to work it into my brush with some paint, grab a little bit of water. We're going to go along the bottom edge of our mittens. I'm just doing the red elements right now so that you can see them. We can go a little bit at the back here, but those little pom-pom things are going to cover that up, so we don't have to worry too much about it. Let's go along the bottom of this one. I definitely need more paint and more water. Work that in, push it into those bristles, but don't let it get more than 1/3 of the way across your bristles, because if it does, then you're just base coating. You might as well wash it out and start all over. Reload it. Okay, there's that one. It's not as dark as the other one, so let's see if I can lay a little bit more in there. There we go. And then our shoes, we kind of want to separate them, but again, the beard is going to be coming in here. So we want to shade. We'll go ahead and shade at the center here on both shoes. More black, more water. I'll do it on both. Oh, I'll zoom you in so you can see a little bit better. I'm going to go along this edge of the line as well. So we'll do it on both shoes. And we're going to do it along the bottom. Of both shoes. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now we're going to do the arms. So the arms is also done with black, a nice, this is where you definitely don't want to have too much paint in your brush. We want to keep this a nice light color here. I do want it to be a little bit darker than that, but that's good for starting out. We don't have to try and get it all in one big swoop here. No point in doing that. Okay, I'm going to darken up just a little bit more paint in my brush. You want to make sure this side is dry before you do this. I'm not sure mine was really dry enough to be doing that, but then we'll go along this edge and darken it a little bit more. Okay, that one side looks darker than the other side, so maybe a little bit more. Work that in with that water. Better. We can go along here, but we don't really need to be honest with you, because our little pom-poms are going to cover all that up. So that is our shading everywhere with the lamp black. Now we're going to start working on our highlights. All right, let's work on some highlights now. Zoom you back out. just a scooch. So we're going to work on the highlights on the hat. Now the highlights on everything that we buffalo checked are all the same. The shading is all the same color, I should say the same color. The highlighting is all the same color. So we're going to take our, you can take your wider angle brush or your smaller one. It doesn't matter. I think I might just go down to my 3/8 one because it's all going to be kind of the same. So we're going to be using our 3/8 inch angle, and we're going to be using a round brush or a detail liner to finish out the little highlight lines. So I'm going to load my brush with some white. Now we know how white is. White is notorious for fading in there, and again, really the only place you're going to probably see this is on the hat, but we want to do it everywhere just in case. You know, just in case you don't get your paint in your beard area, you don't get your beard covering up what you think you're going to have it covering up. So let's lightly, I'm going to wipe a little bit of that off. Ooh, I think I wiped too much off. Alright, we're going to go along this top edge here, come around the point of the hat up here at the top, and just kind of smooth that out. Let it kind of fade away over there. And I'm going to put a little bit of it right through here. We're actually going to use the round brush to add the highlight in here, but we can put just almost dry brushing a little bit of that in there for our beginning of our highlight. It will help us as we put that final bright highlight in there. So just a little scumbling on there. Don't get this, don't stress out about this. I say that about all the painting, but seriously, you're using such a small amount of paint, hardly no water in your brush. It's damp, basically. It's just damp. Hardly any paint. The paint is worked into your brush so much you are literally dry brushing right through here. Here you're floating, so you will have a little bit of water. The water that is in your brush when you're floating, you'll use up there. By the time you get down here, your water should be pretty much out of your brush, so you're just dry brushing right through there. I hope that made sense, because I feel like I was confusing you there. Alright, let's go with our mittens, and again, we probably won't see this at all because our beard, our things that he's holding, all that stuff will be, it'll all be covered up, covering this part up. But for future reference, if you just want to paint him in with his mittens showing, you're going to want to highlight the top edge there, and we're going to do the same with the shoes. All out through here. And I don't have a ton of water in my brush because I really want to have control of that float. So that, let me wide angle out because I don't know how much of that you had on camera. So it's just a really subtle highlight of just white. We don't want it, to be crazy. So let's take our round brush. You can use your detail liner brush as well. And I'm just going to put some lines up here and some through here for some highlight. I'm going to go ahead and do some on the mittens, although we're not going to see this part. I want to show you how to do it. And on the tops of the shoes, just a couple of little highlights on there. Super incredible easy. If you want, when they dry, they're definitely going to fade down in there. You can come back in and repeat them and brighten them up. I'm not going to do that at this time because I want to see how far they fade down in there, especially on the shoes. My beard might cover a lot of that up, but up here on the hat, so far, looking pretty strong, so I'm not going to worry about it too much right there. We're going to work on the hat brim next, so we're going to gather up our colors for that, and our stippling brush. We'll need a stippling brush for that hat brim, and yeah, it's going to be a fun one. Okay, we're going to work on the hat brim here. I'm going to use a Deerfoot stippling brush. This one's kind of a soft one, but you can use one that's more stiff. I normally like a more stiff one. I'm going to give this softer one a try and see if I like it. It's a Dynasty brush, a 3/8 inch Deerfoot. So we're going to stipple some color onto our hat here. So we want our black and white. I've got some white here. I'm going to put some more black out. And we're going to mix them to get a little bit of a gray color. We want to stipple a lighter color along the top and a darker color along the bottom. So I'm going to start with the lighter mix. So we're going to use the brush dry. I'm going to grab some white and a tiny little bit of black. Keep it a little bit lighter than the color we have on here. And we're going to stipple, actually I'm going to remove a little bit of that so it will give me a little bit more texture. We're going to stipple along the top of this. It's okay if you go over into the hat itself. That gives a little bit more look of real stuff here. A little bit more white in the mix. I'm not going to worry if my brush gets onto my nose. We'll be taking care of that later. So we're just giving some texture along this hat brim. I really brought the brim way out over here. Goodness gracious sakes alive. You might want to adjust that. I'll make sure my line drawing has it in there a little bit better. Could be I just didn't see my line very well. I'm going to add a little bit of just white along here as well. So I'm going to go back a second time with just white. Okay, so that's the top of it. Okay, so now let's work on the lower part. And I might bring my beard up there a little bit, cover up some of that, but we'll see how it works out. I'm going to pick up a little bit more black in my brush, make a really dark gray color, and we're going to stipple this along the bottom. Let it come up into, I'm very lightly tapping where those two come together so I could blend them out a little bit. I'm going to come in and add a little bit more white on the top, I think. But for now, we're just getting a little stippling of these two values, basically. I kind of want them to work together happily. Okay, so we can see a definite line on there. It's okay. I'm going to clean my brush out, and we are going to grab some more white in our brush. So let me put out some fresh white here. Alright, some fresh white. I'm going to work it into my brush. I've still got a little bit of that black in there. So I'm creating that little bit lighter gray. I might want a little bit more. Get to that medium gray there. I'm going to tap off on my paper towel. And I'm going to go right in here and blend these two together. Just lightly tap along that line. We don't want to cover up all of that gray that comes up into it. We want it to look like a graduated color. We're going to shade and highlight on here. I'm going to wipe out as much as I can into some dry areas on your paper towel, not wet. And we're going to load with some white. And we'll tap a little bit more white. This will give us a little bit more of that furry texture on here. Okay, except for the fur is just extremely fat on this side. It looks pretty good, I think. So I could fix that by bringing my background over into that a little bit, but it is what it is. I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, but if it bothers you, please, by all means, feel free to fix it. If yours looks anything like mine. A little bit more white. And that's it. I'm not going to do any more to that because we still have to do a little bit of shading along the bottom. I might want to come back and blend a little bit more into that. I really feel like the graduation of colors is not quite there now that I'm looking at it. So maybe just, I'm going to get as much moisture out of my brush as possible and go with that. Oh man, I really splayed those bristles out. Go with some medium. Whew. That's a little bit light. I want the darker value. And I think I'm taking that up too far. Maybe I do need that medium value there. There we go. Get that medium value in there. So that dark is not quite so wide. Because we are going to shade along that bottom. So let's keep that medium value down there. That looks much better, much more blended, and I like that much better. So we do the dark and the medium on first, and then we do the white and the medium, white on the top and the medium on the bottom, and that brings it all together beautifully. I love that. It looks great. All right, let's shade on the hat band. We're going to shade with a little washy float of lamp black. So I'm going to work that into my brush to where it's an almost sheer color with a little bit of water that's in my brush. We can always come back and darken. Can't take away if we get it too dark. So let's just do it lightly along this bottom. Very lightly around the nose. You have to have the water in your brush to carry this to where you want it to go. A little bit more. Okay. That looks pretty good. I'm going to touch up my nose real quick. We're not going to be painting in the nose yet. We're going to go put in our first layer on our beard. But I want to get the nose coated in here. Although I could wait because probably when I put the beard in, I'll get on the nose anyway. Alright, so we're going to do the gray mix for our nose, but we're going to use our rake brush. Couldn't get my word to spit it out there. So, alright, we're going to use our rake brush for this. Now, I've got a 1/2 inch, but you can use a 3/8 inch if that is a little bit easier for you. We're going to make our gray mix, and I think I'm just going to grab a palette knife and mix some up real quick. So I have plenty to work with here. So I want plenty of white and a little bit of black out here. We want a light gray mix here, so I'm just going to take a little bit of black and mix in with my white here. Maybe just a tiny bit more. So we've got a light to medium gray mix here. It's a little bit darker than gray sky. So if you have gray sky, this is a little bit darker than that. Gray sky is not in our palette list, but if you are a person who uses Deco Art paint, then you probably have it. Alright, I'm going to wake my brush up, load it up with water, but I'm not going to lay it on my paper towel to wick out any water because I want to add water to my paint right here. Another little drop of water, and we're going to come in here and we're going to be up on the bristles of the brush, and we're just going to start adding in some, I'm going to try and stay off of the hat brim so I don't have to go and touch it up. The nose I'm not too worried about because I know I'm going to have to touch it up, so I'm not too worried about it. So this is where you get to start creating your beard and giving it some movement and swishiness, although we won't see a lot of this at all, this gray, when we start adding our white on top. And I know that it's already painted white, but we need some darker values underneath our beard to just give it some depth. So just continue. Now this is not going to flow off of your brush if you don't do two things: have water in your paint and stay up on the tip of the brush. Two key things to using this brush to get these light feathery strokes here. See, I gave too much pressure right there, so it laid in a lot of paint right there. Now I'm going to keep a damp brush handy so that I can clean off of my hands. You can certainly tape over your hands and keep them clean that way. You can use the eraser to, clean any areas you need to. So we just want some fun stuff underneath. This is our underneath layer. Now, you can go in and put in a little bit more darkness in here if you want by adding a little bit more black. I did not on my original, but you can. This will give your beard a little bit more depth as you create it. Stay out of the fur. So, it's up to you how little or much that you do for the under painting. Oh my god, I can't even spit out my words today. This is just ridiculous. I'm like having the hardest time talking today. I'm sure you're all watching this video going, oh my gosh, can she not say a word? Goodness gracious. Alright, so there we go. We got our first layer of our beard on. We are going to continue to use this brush, but I need to wash it out. And I do want to tell you that if you're going to paint this and not add the dimensional elements, you'll want to give a cuff to your mittens. And I would just do a solid red cuff or a solid black cuff for the mittens. So that they look finished out. Let me put some fresh white out so that we can continue on with our beard. I'll probably need a lot more than that. Let me wide angle out a little bit here. Now the beard will require 2 or 3 coats of white paint. I think I actually did 3 on mine. Alright, so when you're thinning your white paint, make sure you dip into your clean water to get some water to thin this. And with the white, you don't have to get it overly thin. I've got way too much water in my brush, so let me clean that out. Because my white, I don't know, maybe your white paint you might need to, but my white paint is already a little thin. So if you want some movement in your beard, just stay up on the tip and do little S strokes or X's or whatever appeals to you. This is how you give character to your beard, how you get the softness, the movement, all that stuff. But staying up on the tip, I cannot express enough how that is key to getting those wispy little hairs on here. And don't try to fill it all in the first layer. I mean, it's not going to happen. So don't try to fill it in with the first layer. Just tickle across, have some fun, don't stress out. This is all the really fun part of painting. Just, you know, have fun. It's all in how you move the bristles of the brush, but it's just those long fine hairs that are on this brush is all that's skimming across there. The rest of the brush is holding the paint for when you need it. If your paint is thinned and you've got your brush loaded properly, it just holds the paint up there and then works it down as you are needing more paint. Okay, so there is our first layer of white. Okay, it's not done. I mean, not by any means. See, this one I did 3, I may have did 4 layers of white on there to get that really soft look of that beard. But then again on this one, it's got more detailed sections of beard, which I think this beard is so cute. I love this. So you can do it this way and keep it more clumps, and then do a little bit of maybe some shading to separate some. On this one with the bunnies, I didn't give it any curl at all. I just kept it straight coming down. So it really is whatever look that you like that's going to make your beard really sing for you. I happen to like the soft wispy stuff that goes on, so that's what I'm kind of going for with this one. So I know I'm going to have at least 2 more layers, possibly 3, because we're putting down such small amounts of paint. It's thinned paint, so it's going to kind of fade back in a little bit. We want our layers to build up so that we can get the really bright stuff on the top. Okay, let's add another layer on here. This one's dry for me. You do want to give them time to dry in between. They'll just start blending together. Up on the tip. We can have a few that come up that direction if we want. Some fun stuff. I'm going both directions, this way, then this way. Doing an S. So those are the strokes that I'm doing. Going this way, then this way, doing an S. Could do a backwards S, but I'm not very good at the backwards S. Here, I need a little bit more water in my paint and brush. So if you're painting this and you are not going to put anything in the hands, I would recommend doing the mittens after you've done 2 or 3 layers of your fur. Then come in and add them, and you just have to put that last little soft layer along the top maybe. And then you won't have it covering this part of the mittens if you don't want to. Alright, this is my what layer was that? That was my second layer of white. So I've got 1 layer of light gray and 2 layers of white. I'm definitely going to put 1 more layer of white on here. I need a shade on the beard, but I want to make sure it is completely dry. Right now it's not completely dry. Let me go in and touch up my nose here. Ooh, that's bright. Too bright. Getting that soft pink, that's a little hard to do. All right, touch up your nose. All right. Okay. Let's shade the bottom of the nose with our red. We want this to be a cheery little nose. Let me spritz my palette with some more water here. A little water in my brush, because I want this to be a nice soft float, so don't load your brush with a lot of red. We just want this pretty little bright pink color, and we're going to float it along the bottom. We can repeat it, which I'll definitely be doing. But for now, we just want it. Where is my mop brush? I'm definitely going to mop this nose, smooth that. The mop brush will help smooth that paint out. Keep it from being so choppy. But if you have a lot of water in your float, then it's pretty much going to remove the paint. You use your mop brush dry, and I just mopped very lightly, just barely tapping to smooth that out. So now I want to clean my brush, so I'm going to take it to my paper towel to a wet spot and clean it off. Clean that paint out, and then I'll go to a dry paper towel or a dry spot and dry it off. And it should be clean for you. Alright, so that was one layer for the nose. Let's do a second one. We're still going to keep that sheer color. I need a little bit more paint in my brush here. This is just the straight Santa red here. Mop brush. Smooth that out. Clean it. I recommend that you clean it after every use, because if you don't, you get that wet from the next color you want to mop, you're reactivating the paint that's on the tip of this brush, and then you're going to just transfer that color everywhere. Alright, that is the shading with just the Santa red, and we're going to highlight on the top with Snow White. So we're going to first float some Snow White on there. Still using our 3/8 inch angle brush. Keep the shape of your nose nice. Just right along that top. You can walk it down into the nose a little bit. Really lighten that nose. And then you're going to take your round brush or your detail liner, whichever one that you can manipulate best to get a nice thin line. We're going to add a nice thin line, maybe up there. Fun little highlight. You can come back and brighten that. I may have to brighten that when I'm done. Alright, my beard should be dry enough now. We're going to shade on our beard. We're going to shade around the nose. Okay, I shaded, did I shade a little bit here? No, I didn't. We're going to shade under the arms. Those are the only two places that we need to shade on the beard. And we're going to use black, but we're going to make sure that it stays a nice sheer color. You don't want a lot of paint here. That's a lot of paint, so I'm going to grab some water so I can thin that a little bit. A little more water, tiny little bit more paint. Alright, we're going to go around the arms here. And I should have brought some of my beard out a little bit more here. Alright, nice and smooth with the mop brush. Just smooth it out just a little bit. You can also take a little bit of that off if it feels too dark. You can make a dark gray value, which I think in my packet that's what I recommend you doing, is doing a dark gray so it doesn't get too dark for you for the shadows. So if you're uncomfortable using straight black, I would recommend doing the dark gray mix. So I'll leave it in my packet to say dark gray, and then you can, and I need some water because that did not, it's got a really hard line on that edge there. That is not working out for me. You see that? See that hard line right there? And it's a really hard line right next to the nose. I don't want any of that. You can also take a baby wipe and very lightly wipe a layer off. Alright, I'm going to try that again with some black. Now I can mix a dark gray here if I want to do that. I have to maybe go to my bigger brush because I'm getting paint way over into my bristles where I don't want them. I think I got eraser shavings in there. That's a little bit better, but it's already starting to dry, so let me mop that. If you want to mop, you can't mop it if it's dry. It just doesn't happen. You're going to have to remove the paint because that first float that I put on there, that was dry. So it wasn't having anything to do with mopping. So be sure, and if you're going to mop, that you mop before it dries. Okay, I think I will redo the highlight on the nose here. Brighten it up a little bit. Okay. Maybe a little bit brighter down here on the shoes. I want to bring some beard out here, so I'm just going to do it with the liner brush. I want it to be coming out a little bit more there like it does here. So this is where you can go in with the liner, make sure your paint is thinned, and you can fill in any areas where you feel like you didn't get quite enough hair coming out where you wanted it. Just add a few. I hope you've been on camera for that. Probably not. Probably not. So you can go in here and just add. This, you could also tape off your arms and not get any on your arms when you're making your beard, and then come back in with just a few with your detail brush and add those in. And this can also help you put some really bright white ones on top, but we got our stencil to do yet on here, so we're going to get ready to do that next. Definitely need thinner paint here. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm just going to leave that fluffy little beard right there because that is the gorgeous beard. Alright, let's wide angle out here. We're going to do the beard, the stenciling on the beard. Now this is totally optional, but I thought it helped give like a more whimsical look, like he's got some really tight curly ones on the top of his beard. So my curly stencil obviously does not match the one that Plaid has, but it's my design, my style, so I'm going with it because I love it. Okay, let's grab some white and a stencil brush. That's the one that I used earlier. It's still wet. I went and cleaned my stencil. So we're going to load this with some white paint. I'm going to offload just a little bit. I want these to really be bright and stand on top, so, and I want to stay within the beard. I don't want to go out anywhere else. I don't want to go on the nose. I don't want to go on the hat brim. But I really want these to be bright. So again, tape your stencil on. That is the best thing to do. But we want to see them on top. So we may have to do them more than once. I'm going to tape it in place so I don't move it. Oh, not while I'm doing this videotape, because I'm at the end and I don't want to have to redo it. So here we go. Just work your way around this. You can do the swirling part, but I really want to make sure that I get paint where I want it to be. And all these fun little swirls. Even through here, even though we won't see that area. I'm not going to go onto the arms very much. I'm going to lift this up and see how it's looking. Pretty good. I'm gonna repeat it. I want to let it, actually I'll lift this up and let it dry a little bit. And I'm going to repeat that before I move my stencil, because up here, that's where I first started. Not a lot of paint there, so definitely going to go back in with a second layer of stippling paint here with my stencil brush. I'm going to need a lot more paint on my palette here. Get all of these a second coat with what paint I got left. Okay, see how that looks. Oh, that looks really good. I love it. Oh my gosh, I love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. All right, I'm going to take my stencil off and I'm going to move it. Oh my gosh, that is so awesome. And I'm going to move it down here. Let's see, the swirls are mostly going down, so we'll keep it going this direction. Move my tape here. Okay, I'll tape it here. Fresh white out. And we'll be doing it twice, so stay just in the beard area. If you can tell what's beard, that's helpful. You know, because the background, your beard could be close to the same color as your background, so right up next to the arm there. Alright, let's see how we did. Too bad. Need the second coat, obviously, on everything. I love how this stencil stands on top of that beard, too. Just looks so cool. Oh, that looks so good. Alright, take the stencil off. We're done with it. We can go clean it with our stencil brush. I'm going to rinse mine off in the water for now. I do want to reshade right there where I got one right underneath the arm. So I'm going to do that. I'll grab my angle brush here. little bit of black. Work that in. And I'll just reshade right here. It's going to take those swirls underneath. A little drop of water. I'm going to thin this because I like to go along the nose here, but I want to really keep that paint thin. Alright, I see I got some white paint on the mitten there, and I want to take that off because we will be seeing that. So, use my white eraser. Remember, you're just moving a thin layer of paint, so don't let it get crazy carried away. Okay, so at this point, you can be done once you add a little ball up here. You could paint a ball the same way that we did this down here. And, you know, do it the same colors. Take it off my easel because the next steps that I show you will be much easier if it is off of the easel. So, oh my gosh, he is looking so adorable, you guys. Look at him, so cute. Okay, so the next steps that I want to show you obviously are optional. But before you decide or before you add any dimension to it, this is the point where you need to varnish it, okay? So varnish it with a satin varnish or a matte varnish. I did not varnish my first one because I was just creating it to submit for a class. I can see my nose needs more red on it. So let's add some more red to it here in a second. But you do want to varnish it before we do the finishing details onto it. So let me add a little more red on the nose. Definitely want it to be bright like the other one. I like how red the other one is. Ooh, that's a lot of red right there. Keep it on your nose, don't let it get into your beard. Red is the hardest color to clean up if you get it where you don't want it. Okay, that looks much better. I like that red. Now I could add a little bit of black to that red to really deepen color, but I think that looks good. I like his nose. His nose is cute. He is cute. Oh my gosh, he's so cute. All right, so next steps. So varnishing. Let me show you some options for varnishing and tell you what I would use. Okay, I would use either Duraclear satin varnish if you want it to have a little bit of shine, or the Media Soft Touch varnish. This one's my favorite. It makes it look like it's just painted. It protects it, but it doesn't give it any shine whatsoever. This one is my favorite. So I'm going to use this one. And how you want to apply, I'm going to go ahead and apply it so I can show you how I do it. You can take this and dump some out on a palette or a foam plate or something. I just use a damp artist sponge and dip it right in there. Get a good amount because I want to be able to cover this entire surface without dipping back into my bottle. So I'm going to cover the entire surface. You want to make sure that your paint has completely dried and cured. That nose probably wasn't very cured, but we're going with it. So just do your entire piece, let it dry. You can come back and apply a second layer on here. Damp sponge, key. It doesn't matter what varnish you're using, you need to use a damp sponge. Okay, so we want this to get dry. Once it is dry, this is where you pick your elements that you want to attach to your Santa. I need to get my glue gun heating up. Santa, he's not a Santa, he's a gnome. He's a Christmas gnome. But I think I'm gonna make me a St. Patty's Day gnome. I think that's gonna be a lot of fun. All right, let me get my glue gun heating up here. So I know that I want to put the same stuff that I put on the other one, which is the stuff in Santa's hands. And this stuff, so I need a big one for up here, and then I need 6 of these little ones to go along the wrists of the mittens. And then my snowflakes. I gotta find my snowflakes. Alright, so while my glue gun is heating up, I'm going to apply some glamour dust onto the fur. I always like to add a little bit of bling onto my projects. And I like to put it on top of my varnish. So I always recommend, if you're going to add glamour dust to your project, to varnish first. Keep it out of the mustache there, or the beard, not the mustache, goodness gracious. And I always like to apply at least 3 coats of glamour dust, because I like my bling on my Christmas stuff. I just think it's not a Christmas piece if it doesn't have some bling on it somewhere. I mean, even on a serious Christmas piece, if I'm doing it and it's got an ornament on it, I put a little bit of bling on that ornament, and I'm telling you, I must bling it up. So that's 1 coat on there. Not really going to see the shine till it starts, or the glitter part, till it starts drying. I dropped my sponge down into my water basin that I used my varnish with, so that my varnish won't dry in my water basin. Alright, so these little guys right here, and actually I need 2 whiteness and 1 silver, but I got 2 silver and 1 white, so we'll just go with it. All this stuff is going to get hot glued on. So again, I can't stress enough to varnish first and then apply your elements, even your glamour dust. Glamour dust, ice crystal, that's what I used up here. Okay, let me see if my glue gun is heated up enough to give me some glue up here. A little drop of glue, and let's put the ball on. And like I said, with these you can add the Velcro. It's adhesive backed Velcro, so you'd want to varnish your surface really well, 2 or 3 coats. That way if you ever wanted to take it off, hopefully it wouldn't peel the paint off. Okay, so we want some across our mitten here. 1, 2, 3. My ceiling fan is on. That glue's probably drying faster than I can get this stuff on here. Okay. Get these a little closer so maybe I can get them down quicker. Alright, so there is our cuffs on our mittens. How cute is that? Oh my gosh, so cute. Alright, glamour dust, not quite dry. I definitely want another coat of glamour dust on there. Alright, so for our little pine cone things, I'm just going to get a couple of clusters to glue in here. Maybe 3. 2 is not going to be enough, so let's do 3. They've got these little like ends to them, so I'm going to try and glue them to where they're all intertwined here. So it looks like he's just grabbed a handful of pine cones. So I'm going to actually put the glue over here on this stuff. See if we can get it to stick here. I need to add another glue stick to my gun in a minute. I shouldn't need my glue stick again unless this doesn't stick and I need to add more glue. So there he is. He's got his little pine cones. I'm going to go ahead and put these little guys up here because my original one, I don't have them setting on my hat brim, so I can still paint my hat brim. So we'll put one here. We're going to overlap them. And these are adhesive back, so they are removable. At least they come off easy for me, so maybe because they're overlapping each other is why they come off easy. But okay, I just put 3 up there in the corner, overlapping, and then we just need to add another coat or 2 of glamour dust onto our fur here. You could also use the stippling brush to apply it if you wanted to keep that stippling effect, but oh my gosh, this is so cute. You could put glamour dust other places if you want, but I think that's gonna do it for me. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That is the cutest little gnome, Christmas gnome ever. I love him so much. Oh my gosh, you guys, I hope that you have loved painting him as well. Let me move some of this stuff out of the way so we can look at just him. Just him. He is so cute. Oh, I just want to thank you guys so much for painting with me today. I hope you've painted along. This one was so much fun. And you can be so incredibly creative in how you decorate this guy or change him up for the seasons. I think I'm definitely going to do a St. Patrick's Day with St. Patty's stuff all over the hat. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to do that one. So you guys just grab this pattern, LonnaLamb.com, fix him up any way that you want. I can't wait to see yours. Thank you so much for spending the day with me painting. I hope you've enjoyed it. Give me a thumbs up. Please like, please share, and please comment. That is what helps my YouTube channel grow, and I appreciate every single one of you. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.